I'll give you our known people that do break into cars. You'll see them here. If you see them on the streets, just call 911 for suspicious person. They're the guys, I call them break-ins, because they do break into the cars. But for the most part, again, we leave our cars open all the time. And on top of leaving our cars open, we leave all our worldly possessions inside that. Our wallet with our credit cards, our driver's identification, our laptops, our iPhones. It's all left in there. We just need to secure our own property and take some measures to protect ourselves from them. And the other way is just, if you do see them, call us. Let us know. Non-crime related, as far as accidents are concerned for our community, they're down 10% for the year. The one thing that we are upping is injuries that occur as relates to accidents. And the only reason that we're up is we had a couple of accidents, one with a school bus where we had 17 people that were injured on a school bus. All of them non-life-threatening injuries, but it increased our injuries as far as it relates to car accidents. My traffic team is out there. They're very much aware of the causes of these accidents, especially those for pedestrians, where I'm actually focusing on our motorists that are failing to yield to pedestrians at the intersection. When it's their turn to walk, they walk. The motorist has to stop and yield to them. If they don't, I'm going to summons them. Because with that, we have seen a reduction in injuries, just that this one bus accident caused an increase for it. And with that, I'd like to say that the 490 is doing great. Are there issues that we can get better in? Yes, there are. And I'll strive to get better at all of them. And okay. So I'd like to say thank you for attending. I know this is our last meeting for the summer. We'll start back up in September. I'm happy to see that each time I come out, I see more and more faces. If everybody could just bring one person to the meeting, and we can grow, and our community will just be represented in that much better of a fashion. All right? Thank you.
God, you're fast.
Great work. It's not only them, it's the community. We are a team. The police commissioner talks about collaboration. I believe in it. With your help and your guidance, you pointing us in the right direction, looking at what's going around, we can make this a better and safer community.
Amen. I just want to point out one person that's here. We usually have a community board representative that sits in our meeting also. So I just want you to know Barati's here from the community board. If we direct your questions and the solutions to the community board, Barati will take your information and your name and take it back to the community board. And now I'd like to bring up somebody that I was pretty happy to know and have known for many, many years. And he has brought forth probably more legislation to fight crime than anybody else. I mean, cops, sometimes their hands are tied. Sometimes the judges' hands are tied because the laws aren't on the books. And there's nothing they can do about it. So we need somebody in Albany that's going to get these laws passed. And I'd like you to welcome our senator, Senator Klein. And he's going to give you an idea of what SNUG is, how it works, and some of the people that he's working with are here tonight. Senator?
Thank you very, very much, Joe. It's always a privilege and a pleasure to work with Joe over the years, who does such an outstanding job in leading our community in the 49th Precinct. I also want to congratulate and welcome Captain McCormick. Pleasure. Looking forward to working with you as well. What I want to talk about, I guess, just an overview, because one of the things that I've been very mindful of, and I know many in this room, is our ability to be able to have smart laws on the books that really help our police officers fight crime. I think just in a nutshell, this has been a rather successful year in Albany. I think everyone knows earlier in the year we passed, I believe, the toughest, most comprehensive gun law in the nation. and I was very proud to be a sponsor of that law, the SAFE Act. The SAFE Act is an important piece of gun control legislation because it really sets the tone or the model on what a gun control legislation should look like. First of all, it's the first time ever we banned assault weapons. There's, I think, a very simple truth. The only people who should have assault weapons are police officers and people in the military. So that was something that was very important. We also, first of its kind, banned on high-capacity magazines. Before this law was passed, we could have 10, 20, 30 bullet-capacity magazines. Again, something that I'm glad we no longer have on store shelves around the state of New York. We now limit bullets to 7. Everyone else who actually passed gun control laws, like Connecticut, have 10. So that's something extremely important. This is the first time we actually took guns out of the hands of the mentally ill. In the past, there was a loophole in the law that if an individual, in consultation with a mental health professional, knew that that individual had a gun, knew that that person was going to do danger to themselves or others, there was no affirmative duty on behalf of that mental health professional to report that to law enforcement. Well, that's changed, and I think that's a very important step forward to make sure that wrong people don't have guns. The other thing that we did, which I think is just as important, is remember something. The federal government has still not acted. Congress has not done anything as far as gun control. They weren't even able to do criminal background checks nationally. So we're still really, I think, very vulnerable in the state of New York from other states that have lax gun laws, like Pennsylvania, Florida, or everyone else. So what we did was we cracked down on illegal guns by first taking care of an issue called the community gun issue. When you have gangs, what they do to kind of escape detecting their gun is they put a gun in one location and all the gang members use the same gun. We actually now made that a felony for the first time. We actually make it a felony for someone who carries a gun, even if it's unloaded, near a school or on a bus. We also make it for the first time life in prison without parole for killing a first responder in the line of duty. That came after the Webster example in upstate New York, where volunteer firefighters were killed in the line of duty. So these are things that I think are very, very important and take that very important comprehensive approach. But, again, I think putting tough laws in the books is something that is important, but we also have to bring it down to earth and make sure we have a program in the community that works. And that's really the SNUG program. The SNUG program was a program that was initiated several years ago and very successful, but unfortunately it was never in the Bronx. Last year we brought funding for the first time, working in conjunction with Joe, the 49th Precinct Community Council, as well as the precinct, as well as Jacoby Hospital, to really take a hands-on community approach to gun violence. You know, we hear it all the time, and I think Bronx County still has the dubious distinction of having far too many gun violence incidences happening all over the Bronx. You know, we're not going to solve all the problems, but I think this is going to be an important step forward because the SNUG program works with the community. First of all, it educates young people about the ills of gun violence, which is still very, very important. But more importantly, it's hands-on because working in conjunction with Jacoby Hospital, we're able to know firsthand who comes into an emergency room, who is the victim of gun violence, and most of it is gang-related, and I think everyone here knows that when it's gang-related, there's going to be retaliation. So they know instantly what caused the gun violence, going into the community, and this program is up and running 24 hours a day. They go into neighborhoods, they speak to gang members, and they try to stop further gun violence before it happens. I think a very, very important approach. And I look forward to this year, we're able to continue the funding again. It's $300,000 a year. We're going to be working with all of the precincts in the North Bronx. And we started it last year. It's going to continue again this year, which I think is something that is crucial to really put a step forward in ending gun violence in our community. The next issue I want to talk about, because Joe, I know, has been a partner with me on a lot of these issues, and I believe you really have to take a very broad, comprehensive approach. The other issue, and we just passed the bill last week in the Senate, and this is the end of our session. Unfortunately, it didn't pass the Assembly, was a law called Luisito's Law. Luisito was a 3-year-old boy who was playing in a park in the South Bronx. There was gun violence that took place between 2 gang members. Luisito was shot, almost lost the use of his arm, was rushed to St. Barnabas Hospital. Luckily, a miracle occurred. He was actually saved. But if we think about it for a moment, what are we saying as a society if a family can't go to their local park and feel secure that their 3-year-old can play in that park? So Luisito's Law really takes a very simple approach. It enhances for the first time the felony offense. It actually makes it a felony for shooting a gun in a park or a schoolyard, and enhances the penalty further if you cause injury to a child within the confines of a park and a schoolyard. I think it's sending a very, very important message that needs to be had. And I want to tell you something. This wasn't an easy law to pass in the Senate. The NRA, believe it or not, came out against it. They always say somehow that they're in favor of